Okay, the next chapter we're going to cover involves data analysis and probability. So we're going to start with organizing and displaying data. Our quiz is going to be after break, but we still are going to learn some lessons before then. So this is chapter 10, lesson 1, organizing and displaying data. The first type we're going to touch on today is bar graphs. Bar graphs are vertical or horizontal, and it's a good way to display information that can be organized into categories. Part of what we're going to do is make sure we know how to read these kinds of displays of information as well as how to create them. Here's our first example. So on the left side we have the bar graph, and we are going to read and interpret what information it's giving us. First question, which casserole was ordered the most? So we go over to our graph and we see the casserole ordered the most was lasagna. Just because when you're looking at the bars, the purple bar is longest. How many total orders were placed? To find the total orders, you need to find the order for each of them individually. Here it tells us that after 2 lines we have 20, which means each line must represent 10. When it says about, that means that an estimation is appropriate because it's not telling us the exact amount. It's just showing us with markers for 10 each. So for the tuna noodle, we see that it's near the 40 line, but it goes a little bit past. If this gap is supposed to represent 10, I would guess that this is about 2. So I would say for tuna noodle, it's about 42 orders. King casserole, we have about the same. We are right past the 30 mark, and we go a little bit over. I would say that's almost the same gap, so I would say about 32. Baked ziti, we're past the 10 mark, and we are almost at the 20. I would guess this is about 18. Chicken with wild rice, we're almost at the 30, so let's say 28. And lastly, lasagna, it goes actually all the way up to the 60. To find the total orders, we're going to add up all of these numbers together. We're going to do 42 plus 32 plus 18 plus 28 plus 60, and the answer we get is 180. It's not a bad idea to leave those numbers up, so we can answer a couple more questions until they're done. Question C, about how many more tuna noodle casseroles were ordered than King Ranch? So I look at tuna noodle, we have 42. King Ranch is 32, so I subtract them, and it's about 10. Again, this is an estimation because the numbers we have here may not be exact. Last question, about what percent of total orders were for baked ziti? We know to find percent, it's part over whole. So we're going to take the part, and we're going to divide it by the whole. We want to find baked ziti, so for us that would be 18 divided by 180, which we know as 10%. All right, so that's bar graph. Next, you might have a double bar graph. It's essentially the same thing, except you're comparing 2 different types. So it's safety, price, cargo, comfort, and mileage with competing SUVs. The red here represents the SUV X, and blue represents SUV Y. So you're comparing the 2 while comparing it to these numbers in different categories. So the first question here is, which feature received the same satisfaction rating for each SUV? If it's the same, you would expect both bars to be equal to each other. In this case, cargo, you can see the bars are equal to each other, so the answer must be cargo. B, which SUV received a better rating for mileage? So I'm going to go to the mileage category and see which bar is higher. That's SUV Y. The next type we're going to talk about are line graphs. Line graphs are really good to see what changes over time. So if you see a situation that uses the words over time or time is being compared, chances are you should use a line graph. Here is our example of a line graph. Right here it's percent humidity throughout the day. At what time was the humidity the lowest? So I look here at the line graph, I'm looking for the lowest point, and I see it's right here at 4 a.m. You'll notice there's 4 a.m. and 4 p.m. Make sure that you are writing units. Next question. During which 4-hour time period did the humidity increase the most? I see there's an increase here and an increase here. To be honest with you, I think both increases look pretty similar to each other. Maybe with 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. with a slight advantage. I would accept both answers here. 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. is probably going to be my preferred answer, but I would also take 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. Increase means we're going to see which slope is the steepest. We also might have a double line graph. Same thing as a double bar graph. The different colors represent different scenarios. These are how the gas prices are changing at 2 different gas stations over the months. January, February, March, April. First question. In which month did Station A charge more than Station B? So Station A is red, B is this teal color, so I want A to charge more than B. So I'm looking for instances where the red diamond is above the blue teal circle. I'm seeing 2 instances here. I'm seeing an M and a J. Some of you might have to go through the months, but the answer there is the second M, that's May, and the second, second J, they're tied, so it's just M for May. All right, gave away the next answer, so sorry. During which month or months do the stations charge the same amount for gasoline? The reason why this question might be a little difficult is because when you're looking at, I'll give you one of the answers, April, you only see the diamond instead of the teal circle, but you can see that the teal circle crosses through that point, so you have to be vigilant. The answer here, we see one in April. Do you see any more? Hopefully you see it at July. So that's double line graph. And last thing we're going to cover are circle graphs. Circle graphs are showing percentages. Did I not explain? You know what circle graphs are. They are good for displaying comparisons in categories when you know the total amount. So just one question for the circle graph about a punch recipe. Which ingredients are present in equal amounts? So we want the same percentages for multiple ingredients. Looking at these percentages listed, the clear answer is lemon sherbet and pineapple juice. Okay, so we covered the graphs that you should be able to interpret and read. Next, we're going to talk about how to display them. So the last couple problems of your homework is going to be choosing and creating an appropriate display based on the information they gave you. So here we have, I'm guessing, in a bouquet, what flowers are represented and how many of each. So in this bouquet, we have 6 roses, 4 lilies, 6 sunflowers, and 3 peonies. For choosing an appropriate display, we're only going to talk about the methods we mentioned in this lesson. So your options are bar graph, circle graph, or line graph. For this answer, I think there are multiple that are appropriate. I think you could either do a bar graph or a circle graph. I've decided to do a bar graph in this instance. So here's my bar graph. First, I made sure I listed all of the information so you can see it here. Next, what is needed for a bar graph is you have to have a title, types of flowers. You need to have labels, number of flowers, and here are the types: roses, lilies, sunflowers, peonies. You need to have some kind of numbering scale, and you need to draw the bars. Make sure that the bars do not touch each other. That's very important. So this is a bar graph. You should know how to make all these graphs. This is just a review. Next, information that we want to display. We are going to choose an appropriate display for this information, the degrees held and how many degrees are represented. I would think this is at a school, maybe the positions or the degrees that the teachers hold. I'm not sure, it doesn't give us that much information. But again, we have categories and we have numbers in each category. Again, I think that this information could fit into either bar graphs or circle graphs. Since I already showed you a bar graph, I'm going to show you a circle graph. So I wrote out my types. Circle graph, you have to fill up the entire 100% of the circle. So you need to find the total. And once you do, you have to find the percentages. You take the part divided by the whole, and you move it over 2 times. I rounded it to the nearest percent here. So I got 10%, 39%, and 51%. You draw the circle, make sure you have the title. Then you're going to put the labels and the percent that is represented. The last graph we're going to use is, of course, the line graph. But I want you to be able to look at this table and know why we are choosing the line graph. Hopefully you remember that the line graph is great for showing how things change over time. And indeed, one of the units here we are using are years. So here's our information again up here in the left corner. And we're showing the farms over time. For the number of farms, I'm going up by 50s because there's such a range from 53 to 265. I could also use this little jump to have jumped all the way to 53 and then go up by a different number, but I'm comfortable with going up by 50s each time. Don't forget the labels. I should have put years down here. I apologize. All right. Then you're going to put a dot for each of these points. They are all connected because it's a line graph. You need to make sure you have the lines. You're going to connect all of the lines, and that's your answer. It's very easy to see through a line graph that it is decreasing number of farms over time. All right, thank you so much. Your homework is up on RenWeb.